You know, from the moment a house is listed to the day you get the keys, numbers are everywhere. They're the heart of every single real estate deal. But let's be honest, for a lot of us, that math can feel, well, pretty intimidating. But it doesn't have to be. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really demystify the numbers behind the deal.
So, let me ask you this. Forget about the packing, the endless house hunting, all the back and forth negotiating. What's the scariest part? For a lot of people, it's that moment when all the numbers hit the page. You know, the percentages, the fees, the closing costs. It can feel like a tidal wave of figures.
Yeah, for so many of us, it's the math. And look, that is completely understandable. I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. You absolutely want to be sure you know what's going on. But here's the good news. You don't need to be some kind of math whiz. Nope, you just need one simple little tool.
And this is it. We're going to call it your secret weapon, the T formula. Seriously, it's this incredibly simple but powerful way to solve pretty much any percentage problem you'll ever run into in real estate. It's going to bring so much clarity to the whole process.
So what exactly is it? Well, the T formula is all about how three little things relate to each other. You've got the part. Think of that as, say, the commission in actual dollars. Then you have the percentage, like the commission rate, 5% or 6%. And finally, you have the total, which in our world is usually the sales price of the house. The cool thing is, every single percentage problem you'll see gives you two of these pieces and just asks you to find that missing third piece.
Okay, so picture this T in your head. It's like a little roadmap for your brain. The part always lives up top, all by itself. Down below, you've got the percentage and the total hanging out together. Now that line in the middle, that means divide, and the little vertical line separating the bottom two, that means multiply. The beauty is, the picture itself tells you exactly what to do.
And using it is no joke, as easy as 1, 2, 3. First, you just look at your problem and find the two things you already know. Step 2, you literally just cover up the one thing you don't know, and voila! Step 3, whatever's left uncovered is the formula. It tells you right then and there if you need to multiply or divide. It's just that simple.
All right, enough talk. Let's put this thing to work with a real-world problem. And we're going to start with one of the most common calculations you'll see in any deal, the agent's commission.
Okay, so here's our scenario. A house sells for $250,000 and there's a 5% commission. The question is, how much is that commission in actual dollars? So let's grab our T formula. We know the total, right?
That's the $250,000 sales price. And we know the percentage. The piece we're trying to find is the part, the commission amount. So what do? We cover up the part on our T diagram. And what's left on the bottom? Total times percentage.
So we multiply $250,000 by 5%. And bam! There's our answer, $12,500. See, the formula just takes all the guesswork out of it. It's awesome.
All right, that was the warm-up. Let's try something a little tougher, okay? This is a question real estate agents get constantly. A seller says, look, after I pay off my mortgage, after I pay all the closing costs, and after I pay your commission, I need to walk away with $85,000 in my pocket. So the big question is, how much do they actually need to sell the house for?
Now this is where the T formula gets really clever, because we're going to use it, but kind of backwards. First, let's just add up all the money the seller needs from the sale. They want their $85,000 profit, right? Then they have to pay off the $254,850 mortgage, and they've got about $7,600 in other costs. Add all that up, and you get $347,450. Now here's the trick. That number becomes the part in our formula. It's the part of the total sale that the seller absolutely has to have. Okay, now for the percentage. If the commission is, say, 6%, that means the seller gets to keep the other 94% of the sales price. So 94% is our percentage. Now go back to the T formula. The thing we don't know is the total sales price. So cover up total. And what does the formula tell you to do? Take the part and divide it by the percentage. So $347,450 divided by 0.94 gives us a required sales price of $369,628. How cool is that?
Okay, so we've looked at the seller's side. Now let's flip the coin and look at things from the buyer's point of view. And we're going to tackle the big one, that monthly mortgage payment.
So there's this big fancy word called amortization. Don't let it scare you. All it really means is the process of paying off your loan, bit by bit, over a long time. But here's the crucial thing you have to understand. Every single mortgage payment you make is actually doing two different jobs. Part of it is just paying the interest the bank charges you for that month.
And then whatever's left over, and it's often a tiny little piece, goes to actually paying down the amount you borrowed, which is called the principal.
And this right here is probably one of the most shocking things for new home buyers. Just look at this example from early on in a loan. The total monthly payment is over $1,000. But check out where that money actually goes. Almost $800 of it, poof, gone. That's just interest paid directly to the lender. Only about $278 is actually chipping away at the loan itself. It's kind of crazy, right? And this is exactly why making even small extra payments towards your principal, especially in the first few years, can save you a fortune in the long run.
All right, we've talked commission, we've talked loans. Let's jump ahead to the very end of the journey, the closing table. This is where you'll find one of the most confusing line items on the whole statement, something called proration.
But honestly, it sounds way more complicated than it is. Think of it this way. Proration is just a way to fairly split the bills for the year between the buyer and the seller. That's it. It's all about making sure nobody pays for a day they didn't own the house.
So here's how it works with something like property taxes, right? Those bills usually cover the entire year, but the seller only owned the house for part of that year, and you, the buyer, will own it for the rest of the year. It just wouldn't be fair for you to get stuck paying the seller's tax bill, would it? Of course not. So at closing, the seller basically gives you the money to cover their portion of the year's taxes. It's all settled right there.
And the math to figure it out is super straightforward. Step 1, you take the total annual bill, like say $2,200 for taxes, and you divide it by 365 to find out what it costs per day. So about $6. Step 2, you just count up the number of days the seller owned the house that year, from January 1st right up to the closing date. In this case, it's 258 days. And finally, step 3, you just multiply that daily cost by the number of days. Boom, that's the seller's share. The bills are split perfectly, down to the penny.
So, as you can see, it doesn't matter if we're using the T formula to nail down a commission, or feeling the sting of interest in a mortgage payment, or just splitting the bills fairly at closing. The math, it isn't just a bunch of random numbers on a page. It's the language of the deal. It tells the entire financial story from beginning to end.
And once you understand that language, everything changes. You're not just a passenger along for the ride anymore. Nope, you're in the driver's seat. You're empowered. You can make smarter decisions. You can ask better questions. So really, the only thing left to think about is, now that you know, what's the first question you're going to ask?